Lazard, release attack ball. Okay, bottom of the screen, or sorry, top of your screen right there. So am I? Oh, he attacks. Yeah. So his release here. I don't think the stance is that bad in terms of what he's doing. Uh, the step we could refer to that as a gather or just a slight stab inside to a speed release to the outside. There's really not much to that release. He doesn't really eat up a ton of ground. You can see the DB barely moves because he doesn't really threaten them. So you want to see him threaten more, do a little bit more with his lower half there. Unless it's just the design speed release, which even in that case, you want to see him get a little bit more up with that front foot. Maybe kind of gather both feet or get even and then stab with that outside foot or the inside foot. Sorry, doesn't do any of that. Again, doesn't really threaten at all. Now with that, in terms of the rest of the stem, it doesn't look like his hands land so cleanly. It looks he tries to punch through, but the Bears DB still attach himself to Lazard. Now they're running obviously a Tampa 2 here, and the corner is going to play and trail like that because he's expecting the safety to be over the top. Now the safety is distracted by the inside. Sammy Watkins doesn't, which obviously gets Lazard open vertically. And Rodgers throws a ball, and this is where I say sometimes he throws balls a little bit more to the inside than you want him to. Sometimes you do want to see him lead vertically and to the outside, but he definitely likes to throw it inside and gives the guy the chance. But there's times for everything. For me, for Rodgers, when you have DBs and you don't have their eyes attached to you, I would be more okay with him throwing balls shorter to the inside because then the DB is not going to track it and he's probably going to end up overrunning the play, and the receiver's going to undercut him, or it's going to be a PI or whatever it may be. But when you have this picture, do I like a ball inside and low? I don't, for obvious reasons, right? Because it's much easier to pick. So you want to see him put that a little bit more vertically for sure. And that's one of the problems I have with Aaron Rodgers again. Not that I don't love that he does that at times, but in instances like this, he has to lead him better there. Right. So we do like that he at least comes up and somewhat attacks the ball. We would like to see ideally extension, and instead of some of that bend in his arms was almost like to a 90-degree angle. We want to see more extension than this, because the DB, he's playing through the hands, but obviously the more you extend, the harder it's going to be for him to get his hands in there. So we want to see him again be a little bit more forceful with those hands. Good pick or a good tip by the DB. So okay, not necessarily the best play there. I wouldn't say it's a bad play from Lazard, but the release didn't really open him up much, and you want to see him attack the ball a little bit better than he is. We have Lazard TD. I'm assuming fake stalk from the fake stalk block, so he's going to fake block the slot right here, and I'm assuming would release to the outside or inside. Okay, so we like and this almost works as like a shuffle release right here, which is good, because we want to widen the DB to open up the inside for you. So it's a fake stalk block, but it works the same as not really a shuffle. I'm sorry, it's not a shuffle because you don't have like subsequent lateral movements, but it's more of what looks like a short stride, but it's like a short stride slash fake stalk block. Once he closes ground, has that timing down, breaks to the inside on the slant. Now, a little bit more of an awkward spot for the ball to be in for Rodgers here. Again, you do want to see him put the ball more inside than back shoulder, because that back shoulder throw, that's a similar kind of situation to when we had Barrios in the end zone, right? And I don't know if I forget if the ball got tipped or whatever it might have been, but Barrios dropped it. You do want to see him lead. Now, with that being said, Rodgers is looking towards that side, and he may not know exactly what linebackers are here, who dropped in the coverage, so he's trying to force the ball in there into the inside, so nobody, he's simply not delivering a hospital ball. Also possible. But Lazard has to adjust to a relatively tough ball. This is not a ball where you're like, oh, well, you should catch it, overhand, or this should be a better catch. You body called it. This is a tough ball to adjust to. It's not necessarily the easiest in terms of like, okay, write it down and pen. This is how you catch that ball. You kind of just have to adjust to it, cradle it, and he does a good job there on that play. So next we have a stretch release from Allen Lazard, and the thing about Lazard too is that when you watch guys like Garrett Wilson, the last receiver review I did, there's some guys who are just different in terms of their body makeup. They're case in point being, I can jump I don't know, 20 inches from just straight legged, while Michael Jordan can jump 50. There's just things that different guys can do. Garrett Wilson has much more physical upside than a guy like Lazard. Now Lazard has some advantages over Garrett Wilson, mostly size, but still, obviously guys are different. We know that, right? So we have in the bottom of the screen right here, stretch release, which is a good. This is better. Now I don't necessarily love. I don't love the gather, or like that split release right there to the stretch, because he's taking his leg back to then attack him. So a good DB really wouldn't sit on his heels so much here, and his arms drop, because he's not really moving. He's not really doing much. It looks like more than it is, obviously, but we have that split into a stretch. Again, not really closing so much ground there, but breaks inside um on that that one step slant right there. And obviously there's a rub right there, right? So there's a natural rub, and Lazard can be depending on that to create separation as well. So that's something you want to note. Okay, well, maybe he didn't have to eat up as much ground because he could be more conservative, because there is that obvious rub route pick from 85 right there. So still relatively solid. Now in terms of the catching, it looks like we have him looking a little bit early, or looking off the ball a little bit early there. But we'll see that more in the future. It's not something I have to exemplify right now in terms of not looking balls in, but we have an example or two of that in Lazard's view, unfortunately. Lazard stretch TD luck. Okay, so we have him in the slot, and this is something where I don't know the exact numbers. Maybe I brought them up in the past, but I would say he played about 50% in the slot, maybe a little bit less, maybe 40, but he played a good amount in the slot. So it's not like he's just an outside only guy. So start right there. And stretch release right here from Lazard, which is good. Again, we have a little bit of wasted movement at the line of scrimmage with that right foot having to that back foot having to gather, and that left foot having to gather a little bit. So we do want to see that eliminated, just because this is not doing anything. But stretches them. Now, again, do we want to see him, because we have that jump split by the DB. Do we want to see him close up a little bit more ground? Yes. Now, I'm not saying to crowd the DB. You don't want to crowd the DB. We're going to be right in his face, which is going to be really easy to get hands on. But you want to close enough ground to at least threaten him. And a lot of guys expect, specifically with Lazard, when you're 2 yards off of Lazard, a lot of guys aren't going to panic. Like we saw that one DB a couple of plays ago. So he gets a little bit lucky that this DB jump splits it and gets his weight on his heels a little bit. But still, in terms of the release, at least it's somewhat sudden. And it's a good idea to stretch him. I would like to stretch. I would like to see him get a little bit of the wasted motion out of that release. And I would also like to see him just cover a little bit more ground with the stretch, but breaks inside on the slant. Can't tell if he might not look it in completely there, but still fine. The only thing I would actually, I don't know what down and distance is, so I don't want to say that. The only thing side note is if this were not a goal to go situation, I would watch taking this vertical, just because vertical you're taking yourself to his plane. It's easier for him to close that ground, where if you're to cut a little bit flat, he has more ground to make up to get his way to you. So you risk a PD here more so than if you cut it flat. But if it's a goal to go situation where they need the touchdown, then it doesn't matter. Catch. You can see he's very deliberate in tucking that ball really quickly. Why? Again, because he's expecting the DB to play through his hands, hit him, contact, whatever it may be. And the closer you get to their body, the better chance you have of hanging on to the ball. So we like the stretch release for the most part. And we like the quick tuck of the ball. Lazard block effort. Okay, he's right here to the top of the screen. Let's watch block effort, which is a pretty quick one, which is nice. So the one thing, okay, he closes ground on the DB. We like that when he comes into that relative contact window of 2 to 3 yards, actually really 1 to 3 yards, he breaks down and gets square. So we like that, allowing himself to react to any type of movement, which is nice. And then obviously he gets hands on. Now, ideally, just like an offensive lineman, you want to close that ground and you want to lift and get good leverage under it. Now, with that being said, he's not perfect. He is a receiver, but we see him fighting to stay attached to that block, and he does his job right at the end of the day. And then after he does his job, he's seeing his tight end get mugged a little bit by a few guys there, and he's gonna throw a shoulder into there just to make him feel it a little bit, So it's good. Lazard crossing route, pace angles. He's right here, bottom of your screen. A little bit of a reduced, obviously a reduced split. It's actually a pretty good route. In terms of the drive phase, the thing you have to notice is like certain people you could say, oh, he's not selling the drive phase. Well, it's all dependent on again their physical characteristics. A guy like Lazard just isn't as fast as Garrett Wilson, so you can't say, oh, he doesn't sell the drive phase because he's if he's not able to sell the drive phase as much now. If he was shoulders up here and I could tell that he's not really running fast, that'd be different. But you could see him trying to explode off of that. In terms of the route pacing, I believe the thing I'm talking about is as he breaks inside on that post, he slows it down a little bit. And then as he's crossing that DB's face, he turns it back on just a tad. So it gets the DB to potentially sit a little bit and his eyes attach themselves to the quarterback instead of to Lazard. Actually, the DB is staring at the quarterback the entire time, which is not good. You want to see him be aware of the routes. That's a pretty bad play by 31, whoever that is. But in terms of Lazard, we like the drive phase. Potentially, sometimes it's a little bit harder with slower guys to tell exactly how much he slowed down, but it does look like he slows it down as he's reading the safety right there, and as he crosses his face, he turns it on a little bit more. Now the ball is not on him. Now we don't know what. Well, you can go back and watch why. I didn't look at the quarterback at all or Rodgers to see what happened, but we're not watching Rodgers today. So Lazard, secondary short stride foot fire, like a secondary release. Foot fire, box out and extend. Third down. Okay, so he's in the slot right here. This is like a combo of and they can kind of both be the same thing, but this is for me, I've already talked about in the last review, foot fire versus short stride. Short stride, some will, if you're moving at all, it's a short stride. If you're not, sometimes if you're not covering enough ground, or foot fire versus, let me rephrase it. Let me start over again. Foot fire and short stride are very, very similar. Some people are so stringent to foot fire, you have to be in place. Short stride, you have to be moving. I've seen both used. So if we want to be really technical, and really stringent to the definitions, then we'll call it a short stride. But sometimes we like to differentiate between foot fire and short stride because there's shorter short strides, right? But nonetheless, this almost works as like a short stride and a shuffle because he is moving laterally while also short striding just to widen this DB out a little bit. The DB is slightly inside. He's inside leverage right here. So sometimes releasing like this is actually not necessarily good in terms of widening because you're going away from his leverage, and if you're going away from his leverage, he could be sitting inside for a reason. Maybe he has help outside, whatever it may be. It looks like he may. So some DBs, a good DB will sit inside on this, and he's kind of screwed. It doesn't work for him here. It's just a side note. Releases off the ball, short stride / a shuffle release to the outside. Shuffle is typically more lateral than this. This is I would label this as more of a short stride with an outside stem than an actual shuffle release. But nonetheless, just kind of taking you through my mindset. But we like the short strides, again, showing a lot more work than actually is going on, and sometimes DBs get tripped up by that. But it's a good job, at least for this play, widening him. Aggressive break, gets his drive step under his frame, break, left foot, drive step, line. That's actually a pretty nice break for him. And again, you're showing a lot of movement, but it's really not hard to break out of this because he's not really going much of anywhere with that release. So it's easier, obviously, for him to get out of that break because he's just not taking a ton of momentum into said break. Now he breaks inside, and the thing that's good about him is he boxes guys out in terms of sitting and extending to the ball for the most part, because if you're playing from behind him, obviously Lazard's a big guy and he has longer arms, so it's gonna be really hard for you to reach past him and get your hand in there to deflect that ball. So when he does do stuff like this where he extends to the ball and which by the way, it doesn't look like he caught this ball cleanly, but nonetheless, his body does help him box out guys. I'm sure if I had a different view here. Yeah, okay. So he catches the ball cleanly, but look how wide the hands are, right? So he claps on it at the right moment, but we know that we want that diamond so the ball can't squirt through when you clap it. Obviously, you're contacting the ball halfway down or even later, so then it has less like buffer room to slide through your hands. Where if you catch the nose of it, it can slide through a little bit, but you still have the middle of the ball because you caught the tip of it. With clapping, there's no telling where you catch the ball. So if you catch the middle of it, it might just keep sliding through hands. And obviously, it's not a very clean catch. So we want to see him with better hand technique. That's something that's you're going to see pretty consistent poor hands for him in terms of the technique. But we like the route again, third down, making a catch, over the middle, secure the ball, fall down. It's not a situation where you have to necessarily go for a yak situation. When you get the first down, just sit there or just sit on it and secure that catch. Right now, if we're talking about maybe that's first down, we'd like to see him catch the ball and try to get a little bit of yardage after the catch there. But Lazard block, obviously you can see where he is outside slot number 2. Yep. Again, just little things keeping guys' heads on a swivel. This looks like a run all the way, just because I don't see what Aaron Rodgers is reading to the backside of the or to his backside right here. So it looks to be again a run all the way. You have Lazard, who just releases off the ball, showing the DB something, occupying his eyes. Sees another DB following the route in the flat, doesn't see Lazard, pop him. And people are like, oh, this is dirty. Think what you want. This is not dirty. The DBs, trust me, DBs already have, well, they have a hard time, but like the guys not looking and getting hit, and it's he wasn't able to prepare for it, all that shit. Like all those rules are coming about nowadays, but I got lit the fuck up in high school when I wasn't looking. If you're not looking, it's your fault. Like you got to look where you're going. So he's not looking where he's going, and Lazard's going to make him feel it. And I love that. Like I absolutely love this play from Lazard making the DB feel that he's going to think about it. You can tell he's obviously frustrated, but hey, listen, keep your eyes up, bro. I'm not supposed to hit you. This is football. Make man up. Come back next play. Try me. I like that shit from Lazard. Lazard speed into speed release. Okay, outside slot right here, number 2 to the top. I'm just talking about the burst off the ball here. Like again, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but this is a good play from him.